Hi Positive Readers, it's Positive Writer today with another video, and today I'm going to be telling you all about all the books, specifically thriller books, that have let me down. I love thrillers, as you all know, and I think the genre is amazing, and I have never read this many good books in any genre ever in a consecutive, few months or whatever, because when I jumped into the thriller genre, there were a couple books that were like ass, and they were all on this list, and then after that, it was just like a streak of really good ones, and even of those all those that I didn't really like all that much, they weren't like letdowns. Like the YA books that I ran about all the time, they weren't that level bad. So I really love the thriller genre for coming through like this, because I really never expected to have a year where I've read most good books. Like, I've been always reading all these bad ones that I've been reviewing and talking about. But for last year, like especially the last and this year especially too, because I have barely read it all, and the books I have read, especially the thrillers, have been really good. I just want to come on here and talk to you about the ones that were a letdown for me, because there aren't that many on this list, but I think that these are the thrillers to be talking about, because I really hate these books. And it's not even like I hate them so much, it's the fact that they let me down so much. It's because these books right here, what I would categorize as a book that let me down is something that I really had the highest hopes for. I was very excited to read it, hopeful for the plot or whatever that they gave us, and then it ended up being ridiculous or not what I wanted or done poorly or whatever. Those are the books on this list, and I just want to get into it now. I really don't like any of these books, and they really annoy me. So without further ado, I definitely would not recommend you reading them. So the first book on this list is, I'm going to start from the bottom and then go to the top. Not the bottom, but I just want to start somewhere random and then go to the top, which is the book that disappointed me the most, above like all of the books that have ever disappointed me. So the first book on the list is Hideaway by Nicole Lundgren, and this book, it looked good. Like, the outward appearance of it looked good. It was about it was a domestic thriller. It was about a family. The mom, she's like a suburban mom or whatever, and she looks really, nice, put together, like she has a nice family or whatever. But inside the house, she's very overbearing and narcissistic, to be honest. She rules over her kids and her kids' lives and her husband. She's like really fickle about him. She's really like a toxic human being. And one day she like puts her son out in the woods, and he like runs away, and then he meets up with this like homeless guy, and it's like this whole plot about where's the son at, is this homeless guy a bad person, this type of stuff. I thought it was good in the sense that it really put into perspective how other people would see like somebody who was homeless and living on their own, and not having a house and stuff, but who was really just inherently a good person, even though they had like some issues, and then how the outside world was like, oh my god, this is a criminal who has a son, you know what I'm saying? I liked that, but everything else was bad. Like, the writing was like horrible. It took me months to read this, and I only finished it because I was like, I want to finish the book for like, my Goodreads goal. So I'm like, I only have like 100 pages. Let me like push through. But it was really bad, y'all. I really didn't like it. It was just like the way it was written. Like, I liked the homeless guy. He probably was my favorite character, because there was point of views of the boy and then the sister, who was his little sister. She's like 5 or something. And I hated her point of view because I was like, oh my god, it's a kid. And like, her point of view was like kiddish, and it was really annoying. I really didn't like it. And the mom always was in the mix, and I hated the mom. It was just like, ugh. Like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like a dislike of a character that I could still enjoy the story of. It was like all the characters were like not really likable, and I really just got annoyed. Because even though Carl, who was the homeless guy, was my favorite character, his point of view, not his point of view, but anytime he was on screen, the way that she wrote him was just, ugh. Like, it was not up my alley. I really didn't like it. And for it to be painted as something that I really was going to enjoy, I really just was not happy. The next book on the list is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, which is kind of a thriller and kind of just a random horror novel, I guess. And it was like really boring to me. I really didn't really know what it was about in the first place. Just about like this weird house or whatever, and I don't even know what else. I watched the Netflix show, a little bit of it. I've not finished it, and it honestly looks like it's going to be much more interesting than the book. And the book really just let me down. It was like, I'm expecting something good, something epic, some thrillery aspects, some suspense, and it kind of just was lame. Like, I don't remember that much about it that was interesting at all, or even at all, because I can't remember much, because it was just like, it was all lost on me. And, yeah. The next book on this list is Keep You Close by Karen Cleveland, and these last three I do know what they're about, so I'm going to talk a lot about that, because especially the last two, really just for like, oh my, like you had to let me down, like it had to be you to let me down, because I really love the plots of all these books, these following three of the books that I'm going to talk about right now. Keep You Close by Karen Cleveland was about this FBI agent lady who basically had this son who she finds a gun in his room, and then she starts like second guessing everything about him, and then you know, because like people start showing up to his door talking about some anti-terrorism squad, like some terrorism stuff, and it was like she had to like, you know, think, oh, is my son a terrorist, or is these people lying? It was just kind of like, it was one of those that was going to be like really conflicted between the mom and like her son, and then the people who were coming to get him or whatever. And I really was excited. It sounded really, really good. I read it for like a readathon, and then it was like ridiculous. It was like, I don't know, it was like people were kind of just emotionless. I was kind of just like not into the book. It didn't pull me in at all. It was really interesting, especially at first, but then it just kind of like spiraled out of control into like no man's land, and I was like, what is this? And then by the end, it was like the payoff was literal trash. I was like, what is going on here? It was so confusing, so outlandish, and I really just did not enjoy it. I was very upset with how they handled the rest of the conflicts in the book, and just everybody, like, nobody really pulled me in. Like, usually I've read this book because I love mother-son relationships in books, especially ones that are like conflicted, like, oh shit, did he do something or did he not, you know, from the mom's point of view. But it was kind of just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like everybody was kind of like closed off, which means I can't care about any of you. It was just really not good, and I really was not happy about that. I think, pretty sure I gave all of these last three books 2 stars. The one I'm about to mention in a second, I did like more than all the rest of them, but it let me down in the way that I'll talk about that right now. The next book on this list is The Girlfriend by Michelle Francis. This book was like on my TBR, like almost as high as the last book on this list, or the first one, the worst one. But it was really high on my list because I have never found another book like it, just like the first one. And I really was interested. I was very, very excited to read this. When I say I was very excited, I mean like I was viscerally excited. Like, I remember reading this for a thriller-a-thon, and I was so excited and put it on my list. I was like, we're gonna love this. And it was like, So basically, it's about this, it's in 2 point of views. It's a mother-in-law, and then it's the daughter-in-law, and the person in the middle is the son. And he kind of has a point of view, but not really. He's not really important. It's more about the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law, because the daughter-in-law is trying to like steal their lives. She's not rich or anything, so she's trying to like get in close with them. But the mother-in-law, obviously, she's noticing this type of stuff, and her and the son are really close. So she's kind of like trying to warn him and stuff like this, and the girlfriend obviously trying to turn them against each other so that she can get in and get all this money or whatever. And it was like, I love that plot. I was like, oh my, like, are you serious? Are you serious? I was so excited to read it. And it was like, oh my, like, it made me angry cry, which was not something I didn't like about it. It was just something that happened, and I was like, damn, for real. But that's not what I didn't like. What I didn't like the most was the end, because that's the payoff. That's the end of a thriller book. That makes or breaks the book, because you spend the whole book, you know, building up to this conclusion, and if the end does not hit, it's going to be like, what was all this other stuff for? And that's basically what happened. Everything was really rushed at the end. I did not like how it ended up. I was like, what is this? It was just like, ugh. It was really annoying, and I really was mad, and it was just like, I kind of want to spoil it, to be honest, because I kind of just want to explain why I really did not like this book, because I don't want you to read it. Like, I really don't want you to put yourself through it. I mean, I am the person who literally vouches for these books 100%, and it let me down. So I kind of just don't want anybody else to want to see if they want to vouch for it, and then it doesn't. So, like, the end, it was so rushed. Okay, so if you don't want spoilers, you can leave. But this spoiler for this book, I told you what it's about, and then it basically built up. It was like the whole thing, and what really annoyed me was the fact that the son started to believe the girlfriend over the mom, even though they had like this really close relationship. And I was like, what even? Like, she would like integrate herself into everything, the daughter-in-law, to, you know, get in close with them, and then she was basically like planting seeds in the son's head that the mom was like doing too much and stuff, when the mom was really just trying to help. And I mean, yeah, they had a close relationship, but it wasn't like a bad one. It wasn't like it was unhealthy or something, you know what I'm saying? It was like, damn, like, why would you not turn to your mom? Obviously, the conflict has to be somewhere, so I'm not surprised. But it kind of just really annoyed me that the mom was kind of like the one on the outs here, you know what I'm saying? When the girlfriend is clearly, like, doing some wrong stuff, it was like, ugh. And, you know, it was like this whole thing where, something bad happened with the son, and then the mom like convinced the daughter-in-law that he was dead so that she would have to like, you know, she wouldn't come and see them anymore, because she was literally the most toxic person ever, and the son just could not see it. It was like ridiculous. So she like convinced her of this, and then they had this great relationship going, her and the son again, as he recovered, and then she figured out that, oh shit, he's alive. And it was just like, you know what I'm saying? And then after that, it was like this whole thing where she like confronted the mom, and then she fell into like a hole. The mom might have pushed her, I don't remember. She had like a gun. It was really like one of those supposed to be like epic endings or whatever, but it happened so fast. It was like for 1 second the mom and the daughter-in-law like looking at each other like, oh, you know, who's gonna kill who? And then next minute the son pops up, and then the daughter-in-law like falls in, and the mom for the rest of the story, which is like 2 pages, is wondering, you know, did he see that I pushed her or whatever, and something like that. And it was like really just and then after this, like immediately after she fell in the hole, it was an epilogue, and I talked about how like he like moved away, but like down the streets, like they could still talk to each other. It was like I really didn't like it. Like I just wanted to explain that really quick because I really just did not like the book, and it, you know, it wasn't horrible, and I did like some parts of it, but it was just like in the end it did not pay off, and I would not read it again. No. Now the last book on this list is the first one, because it's the worst one I have ever read. It was like not like worst one bad, but it was the fact that it let me down. You know what I'm saying? It might have been a decent novel if they had not have marketed it as something completely different. So basically this is called All the Beautiful Lies by Pierce Swanson. And this book is about a family, basically, and it's about this guy whose dad died. And his dad died, and he had a stepmom. The dad had married this woman, and you know, he goes to help her because the dad's dead now, and she like needs help or whatever. He like feels bad or something, and you know, he's at college, so he comes back and to live with the stepmom, and then they start getting like inappropriately close, and conflict comes from there. But also, not only that, this other girl who was claiming to be like a mistress or a girlfriend of the dad pops up too. So there's like this whole thing where it's like, oh, like, and they're both messing with this guy. So it's like this guy has to like, you know, kind of like the same thing with the girlfriend. It's like these 2 people who are like close to him are like kind of like pulling him from both directions. And it's like like it was really weird how the dad died. It was like no one knows why he died or anything. It was kind of just like, you know, a really weird situation. So, you know, it leaves this guy wondering, you know, did the stepmom do it, you know, or did the mistress do it? It was like really, it was a really good premise. How they marketed it, I was head over heels immediately. I put it on my TBR so fast, and I was so excited to read it. And then I had never been more disgusted with the novel. I started it, and it just went downhill from page 1. I literally was, I had to like, I wasn't gonna finish it. But then I was in this readathon that was like, read a book that, finish a book that you had previously put down, or like give it another chance or whatever. And I was like, okay, and I finished it, and I still was like, this is ass. Because it's not only the fact that the story was completely false advertisement for what actually they were going to put you through. It was like the characters didn't have any emotions. Everything was like one-word answers. There was like no depth to the novel, and I was so detached. I was like, I want to be here for these characters. I want to be in this story. I love this concept that he was going to build. And then it was like not built at all. And the story mainly, which is a spoiler, but the story mainly focused on the fact that the stepmom, previously in her youth, before this, all this weird stuff with the stepson, now, before this, she, back in her shitty childhood with her shitty mom, had the stepdad, and now he was the one who like got her into this whole, you know, let's teach young people what we know thing, even though they're supposed to be related to us, and you know, and they like were supposed to get married and stuff. It was really weird and really obsessive. But you look, I'm not gonna read anything like this. I would never read a book that had this as a premise, but they marketed it as something else. They marketed it as the stepmom and the stepson. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna read this. I'm interested. But then they're gonna spend the entire novel talking about her past with this, like with the stepdad. I was very disgusted because I was like, there's a reason that I picked this up, and the reason is that there's everything to find about this type of stuff, but I wanted to read about this, and they acted like it was gonna be this, but it ended up being more of this, and I was really nasty. I was really, because it was like they would switch back and forth between her old point of view and then her now point of view, and how it like correlates with the story now and why she's doing with the son, and it was just like, it was like the biggest letdown ever, because I was like, are you really putting me through this? Like, do I really have to sit through this? It was so excessive, there was so much of it, and then by the end it was just like, what is going on here? It was ridiculous. I mean, I really just, I really can't explain how much I did not like this book. I don't really want to spoil the end or anything, because like, if you want to read it, go ahead. I don't care. But the thing is, I just can't believe they marketed it as being something else, and then spend the whole time on this backstory that's like the opposite thing. I don't think people understand how much people, like, you know, how long it takes to search for books that people might enjoy, especially if it's something outlandish that a lot of people don't write about. So the fact that you would write about it, and then you would spend the time talking about something that is like more acceptable, I guess, like more seen in the media or whatever, is just like the biggest slap in the face to me. Because I'm like, it took me years to find, I've never found anything else like this, like that's like published and, you know, a book that people actually want to read. And now it's going to be the one thing I find has to be like completely different. It was like, wow, I could have just passed by this, but you decided to act like it was this and then make it that instead. I was very, very upset, and thinking about it now makes me upset. I'm not happy, but you know, that's just how it be, I guess. But those were the thrillers that really just disgusted me and really just let me down after, you know, presenting themselves as being completely nice and stable novels. And, you know, it's good to talk about those things sometimes. I'm glad that I don't have a long list of thrillers that I really just hate. These are like the ones I hate the most, and to be honest, I didn't really hate all these either. It was just that they let me down so much I had to like come on here and talk, because a disappointment is better than a bad book. Because when I expect something to be good and it ends up flopping, it's like even worse than if it would have just been bad and I just wouldn't have expected anything from it. You know what I'm saying? It's like my least favorite books that I'm thinking about right now, like specifically War Storm. It was one that I really had the highest hopes ever for, and it just, the actual like turnout was in the gutter, like 6 feet under. It was ridiculous. So I hope you enjoyed me talking about this book that I really didn't like. Don't read them. If you do, I mean, I hope you enjoy them more than I did. Or don't, so then there could be more people to vouch for my point of view. But I love you all. I'll see you later with another video. What are some thrillers that really just made you upset or like let you down? I'd like to know. Bye.